All right, the Bucks. It is talking Buccaneers with me, Fumane, and it kills me to have to do this review after Orlando Pirates lose 1-1 to Cape Town Spurs. It kills me to have to sit here and be level-headed and measured because I am fuming. As a fan, to have to sit here and try and be object and try and look at what was positive in that game. There are very positive things which you probably don't need me to repeat, but I will. To start with, maybe I can start on the side of Cape Town Spurs. It was good to see Boitumelo Radiopane out there who looked like such a physical specimen. I think something that was impressive for me to see. The disappointing part is that I think he walked off injured again. He's got this ongoing thing with injuries that are keeping him out, and I can imagine stunting his development as well. But I think in the few minutes that we saw him come on in the second half, he just looked like such a physical specimen who's very quick and looks ready to lead a line for any team. I think in some of my, videos that I've done on this channel, I've mentioned at times that I think what maybe Boitumelo Radiopane can go and develop at Cape Town Spurs is perhaps to lead a line in the DStv Premiership. We know of his finishing talent. We know of his positioning, of his how he can smell where to be in the box. I beg your pardon. But I guess, to make that step up into leading the line of Orlando Pirates, it would be to build his physique, which he looks like he has done so far, to lead that line with, being able to be the only man up front against two centre backs, which he looked very much like he was capable of yesterday. So that's one thing. There's another thing if you to look at, potential signings for us maybe going into the next season. There's a lot of young players at Cape Town Spurs that we should be looking at. I think in the centre of midfield, Butsaka looks like such a neat player as well. And then just going to Orlando Pirates, there's obviously Talente Mata who walked away with the man of the match display. It's hard to say these things having not won that game, but I think he played really well in the heart of that midfield. I would have personally given it to Relebogile Mofokeng just for how much of a nuisance that he was in that game. And you know what? I was going to talk about Relebogile Mofokeng, but maybe I'll leave that to a bit later. Maybe I'll say Mbata as well. But yeah, just going to the game, something that I said which shocked me in this game is that I said in my preview that I predict that Cape Town Spurs is going to play a 5-3-2 system. So if you watched my preview, you would have heard me say that I think they're going to play a 5-3-2 system because that's how they'll try and be compact and restrict us from getting any inroads into their box, creating any chances. Must say I was very shocked with Enes Middendorp putting out a 4-4-1-1 at the start of the game, which gave us obviously a lot of space, especially out wide. And, they didn't have much going forward. They tried they tried pressing us high, of which at times they did win the ball back, but never created anything. Actually, Cupido floundered a few chances that he got in the box to maybe get a goal for Cape Town Spurs early on in the game. But the way that it was set up with their formation especially, and with our formation, just how the match played out was, we got a lot of space out wide, especially on the left. We're very narrow on the right, creating nothing. And that's, for obvious reasons. It's because Karim Kimwili is someone who will drift infield. And if Thabiso Munyane is not high up, occupying that right flank, then we become a bit narrow. And we're very narrow on the right, not creating much on that side, but mostly creating on the left because Mofokeng was sort of hugging the touchline a lot of the time, and I'm going to say more on that. But that's how most of our chances come in the second half, is that Mofokeng is out wide, which leaves obviously some space for Maswanganye to operate. It leaves some space for Kimwili to also come in there. And I imagine that would have been the plan, and then Munyane gives the width on the right. Mayela is not so much of a forward-thinking fullback, at least not anymore. He's, we saw in the second half when Sibisi got pulled off that Mayela is the one that played centre-back. So when you play Mayela at full-back, you're getting a traditional sort of full-back who's going to be part of the back four. And so you need someone who's going to give us that width on the left. And I thought Mofokeng was doing that to aplomb in the first half, and a lot of our chances come from that. Yeah, so very surprised in with Cape Town Spurs setting up in that way in the start of the second half. There was a lot of time in the midfield. I mean, the goal that we score, which was a brilliant pass by, it was a brilliant pass by Talent Mbata, especially with the power that he played that pass. It set up Mufokeng to know what to do with that ball, especially with the first touching it into space, and there was a fault on the part of the Cape Town Spurs defense in stepping out and trying to engage that pass, not keeping that shape, and staying compact. I think the defender, whom I forget his name now, he engaged very early, which left a 4v3 situation for Orlando Pirates, running at the Cape Town Spurs defense, making them face their way. Which, if I were to say something about, is when we are the most dangerous. Orlando Pirates, if you go back to the games that we're winning very much at the start of the season, we're winning at 5s and 4s every now and again, is when we got this opportunity to be running at defenses. Lipasa running, Mufokeng running on the other side, Saleng running on the other side. I think that's just who we are. We're very good when we do that sort of thing. However, with this 3 number 10 system, it does limit a bit how we play, especially when we even play a striker who's like Evidence Mahopa, who, again, I will say that, credit to him, he gets those crucial goals for us. But I think in the overall play, in the overall approach that we approach the game in, we try to win the game in, he doesn't offer us very much in terms of dynamism. I mean, I know he moves around, but and he will be found on the left wing every now and again, trying to win his duels in the air, trying to stretch and things of that nature. But I think that dynamism in behind, just that quickness behind the defense, we've been really muted in that department, with the absentia of Saleng on the right sitting on the bench, and Lepasa also sitting on the bench for lengthy periods now. So yeah, but credit to Cape Town Spurs in the second half, and the opposite, no credit to Orlando Pirates in the second half, in that Enes Middendorp picked up that he needed to change things up. He went to that 5, which I thought would have been their chance in getting anything out of this game, because then it would require of Orlando Pirates to, what I said in the preview, to be very quick in our tempo. Our temporization would need to be good, very good, to be able to carve up the defense. We need to know when to move. We need to be able to play those interplays anymore, because that space that we had out wide to attack them in was then closed. There are 3 centre backs and 2 full backs, just forming that line of 5 at the back, which restricted the space that we could use in the first half to be threatening to them, which is out wide, especially on our left wing, their right side. And so good coaches react to these situations. Enes Middendorp then changed things up. He went to a 5 at the back, 3 midfielders, 2 forwards, right? And I think we failed to react. I mean, we missed a couple of chances. We didn't take sort of like our half chances in the first half, which is a problem. We didn't take those. And yeah, in the second half, just we never adapted to Cape Town Spurs changing things up. We never created anything that looked any threatening anymore. Instead, it almost looked like Cape Town Spurs were going to catch us on the counter, because we're committing numbers up front, but really our approach wasn't different. We didn't react. In fact, more importantly, we weren't proactive in going ahead, getting that second and third. And yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about this game. It's really disappointing, because these draws are really defeats, because you could look at it as 2 points dropped, which you'd be right and look at it in that way. But it becomes 5 points dropped, because your rivals then go and win their game. Supersport might win their game, and Stellenbosch might win their game, and now it's a case of you've dropped points and your rivals have now taken the advantage, have taken the lead in what we're competing for at the moment in the league, which is to finish second at least. And anything other than that would be a massive disappointment on our part. And so yeah, just to speak a little bit on individual players, if I may. I mean, Karim Kimvidi again is someone that I'm going to repeat that he shouldn't be playing at right wing. I get why the coach would play him, especially with the 3 that plays behind the striker for us, Mufokeng, Maswanganyi, and Kimvili, I've thought about it and I've seen it. Kimvili seems like someone who's really quick. He's really neat and skillful and strong and very stylish in the way that he plays his football and very entertaining. But something that I think we might not realize, and credit to you if you have, is that he's very quick. He's very quick. He's got a lot of speed, and I think that's why he's playing Kimvili on that side instead of Maswangani, who when playing there he mostly comes short, which Kimvili also comes short, but then Kimvili has also got that burst of speed if needed on that right wing, right, to leave a defender for pace. And so I think that's why he plays Kimvili there. But I think to start with, Kimvili shouldn't be played there. We've got someone who can play there, which is Saleng, whom I really don't know why he's not playing. I mean, I know a lot of Buccaneers will say that no player should have a guaranteed start in the starting 11, which to some extent that's true, but you've got these special players that even when they're not performing, just their presence, just their determination, their constant sort of sheer force of will create, if not chances, it will create spaces for other people. Someone like Saleng, he attracts a lot of attention in the way that he plays football, and I think we've got to really get him back. I mean, it's disappointing to see that the coach used him against Mamelodi Sundowns because of the threats that he poses, just with his speed and directness. And in these games, the coach might be thinking that we're going to dominate a lot of the possession. I get that, but I also do think that we've lost that element of going in behind. And the argument would be, why did you use him in the start of the season in the games against Sekhukhune and all of those good games that we were playing, in which Saleng was really threatening, and even last season was threatening in those sort of smaller games. If we were to say that Saleng is only a threat for us, he's only a weapon for us in the big games against someone like Sundowns who wants to step up. So I mean, I'm really disappointed in not seeing Saleng in that starting 11. I'm not saying he's going to score the goals for us and all of that. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying in his presence, in his being there on the pitch, he gives us a dimension that opens up certain spaces. So I think in that right wing, you obviously become threatening on the right in terms of the left back and the left wing actually are now occupied by him. And then you've got the central midfielder as well, who must then also try and support the left back as well. And then you've got Mufukeng, who's a revelation for us. And maybe let me move on to Mufukeng with this point. He's a revelation for us, not in the sense that we see his quality, which we do, not in the sense that he's growing in stature, which we do see is happening. But for me, the most important point that I want to make about Relebogile Mofokeng in this game against Cape Town Spurs is an important one, especially going forward, because we've gotten used to this notion that in the big games, the coach is going to play Dion Hotto on that left side, which I think we've got to scrap that now. The reason why I think he plays Dion Hotto on that left side in the big games is because he thinks Hotto is going to give us, obviously, firstly, the energy, which I love to give Hotto credit for, is that he's very energetic. He's someone who keeps trying and he goes for 90 minutes non-stop, right? But then the other thing is that I think he thinks that Hotto is someone who gives us width. He's able to hug that touch line. You can play a traditional left back and Hotto who's gonna do the up and down thing. But what I saw yesterday is that firstly, Mofokeng can actually do that hugging the touchline thing. In fact, he excels at it because it just gives him that space of taking a man on. And I think our approach yesterday was to leave him high up on the left and sort of not burden him too much with defensive responsibility going that way. I think he's got a responsibility to defend, obviously, like every other of the 11 players in the phase when the opposition are trying to build up. He's part of that press. He's part of trying to stop them from building out from the back. But I think yesterday what I saw is that it was limited in terms of don't go back the other way and help us defend. Stay up. When we win the ball, you're going to be our outlet. Of which we saw that he's someone who can do that for us. We always thought we have that on the right side with Saleng, right, with his speed, but Mofokeng's directness and his speed as well is just something to marvel at, which we saw in the DDC especially. But in the men's game so far, we've always seen him as sort of like that hybrid 10 kind of winger who's always coming into the half spaces and not really doing much out wide in terms of beating a man out there. But really impressed yesterday with how he could actually beat a man, come in field, and disguise as if he's going to play it in field and then lay it off for the left back who's bumming forward. And I think, that's something that, I just keep finding, or I keep, running out of these superlatives to praise Lebohile Mofokeng. And again, I learned a new dimension in him. And so the important part about that is that, going forward in these big games, we're playing Kaizer Chiefs next, which isn't so much of a big game, to be entirely honest. Just quality, just speaking about quality, I don't think it's a big game anymore. I don't want to lie to you guys. I really don't think Kaizer Chiefs is a big game anymore for us. But I understand it's a big atmosphere. In that sense, it's a big game, big history, big atmosphere, big stadium, a lot of fans, a lot of hype, a lot of people watching. In that sense, obviously, it's a huge occasion, and I think the coach has been, sort of not playing Mofokeng in those games, and he's been playing Hotto on the left. And I think yesterday, just in the way that he played that game, in the way that he was playing on the wing, just directness, running down the wing, not coming in field with the ball, but not really receiving in the half spaces, just staying out wide, receiving the ball there. It reminds me a lot of when I was 11 years old, how I'd always watched Tegomdisa playing that left wing, just standing on that touchline, waiting to receive that ball on the counter-attack, and then directly running at people, deceiving people with his body movement, shimmying one way or another, laying off people like Lucas Twala, sort of overlapping on the left, whoever was playing there, Ruben Klute at the time, or coming in field, laying off, the forwards, Mahuta, Katlego Mashego, and all of those people. It's very reminiscent of that, watching Mofokeng play the left wing like he did yesterday. I think he did it really well, and it just gave me this foresight of these big games like Sundowns and Chiefs and all the other big games that we play, even in Africa. I think we've got to stop this thing of thinking, let's not play Mofokeng in the big game for whatever reason, let's play Hot out there because he's much of a safer option, whatever. I think we've got to risk it and play Mofokeng. He gives us a lot just going forward, and I think he was the star man yesterday. And again, just to touch on Talent Mbata, I think he's someone that I'm excited for. Speaking of, I touched on, some of the players of Cape Town City, and my preview will be playing for a move. Boitumelo Radio Pane will want to prove a point and play for a move back to Land Pirates. And I think someone who's definitely playing for a move and is doing it really well has been Talent Mbata in the center of midfield. My kind of thing right now is how are you going to pair him going forward? Because Mokhehleni is a brilliant player, don't get me wrong, but he's also not a young player by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's 36 years old this year, if not turning 37. I think he might be 35, turning 36 actually. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's actually 30. When is he born? I think he's born 88, 87, something like that, maybe even 89. But I know he's definitely in his mid-30s, and which means that you've not got him for a while. You've got to, something I always say on this podcast is you've got to build that midfield for years. You've got to give it longevity. And I love seeing people like Mokhehleni and Monare just for their sheer quality and team. But there's a part of me that doesn't love to see them all the time, because it means that we're not building. We are a team for the season. And maybe probably the next season, and then that's it. But then if you're going to be playing someone like Talent, then maybe pair him with Ndrondo. I don't know what you guys think, especially defensive wise. Do we have cover with that kind of midfield? But that's something I'll be looking forward to seeing. And Musele is doing good out on loan at the moment. Let's assess him in the preseason, see what he can give us, because I think he's the one that plays that kind of defensive midfield thing that Mokhehleni maybe will do. But let me leave it here. Disappointing. I hope I didn't sound too negative, guys. But I also hope I didn't sound too positive, because this is definitely a negative result. Just considering that now Cape Town Spurs have only drawn 2 games and we're one of those games. They've only lost 3 games. They've only won 3 games and we are one of those games. Is just testament to how terrible a season this has been. And if you come for me for saying that statement, I'll gladly take it. Until the next preview, which is going to be very soon, the upcoming game against Kaizer Chiefs, up the mighty Bucks. Cheers. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video from Talking Buccaneers. If you did, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all our future content.